Welcome. This is MoneyHeart, where we explore the emotional side of money. I'm Camille Diaz, and today we're discussing taking control of your destiny. My guest is Cecilie Croissant. She's a therapist who owns Path of Hope Counseling in Owasso, Oklahoma. She primarily treats adults, couples, and those dealing with trauma. Cecilie, welcome to MoneyHeart.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. It's exciting.
Yes, so glad to have you. Glad we could make this happen.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. When we first chatted about doing this episode, you told me that you received a really specific message from your mother at a pretty early age. Can you share that message with us and sort of how that all happened?
Yes, I can do that. So my mother was a brilliant, wonderful, very intelligent woman. And however, she grew up very poor. And back then, she didn't feel like she had the opportunities to pursue the education that she really wanted to. And so she ended up in a job where she was brilliant, but she felt like she could have gone so much further if she had had the opportunities. And so she imprinted on me from a very early age, just like you said, Camille, that her daughter was certainly not going to grow up in the same way, that I was going to get an education. I was going to be a person who wasn't dependent upon other people, to support myself. And I can remember these messages coming across with a lot of passion. And so they made a very deep impression upon my life. And so I, thankfully, eventually anyway, I got my full education and, started working as a therapist. And so I've been in ministry for a long time before then in various capacities. But I was so glad that I finally went back and finished my master's and ended up doing what I'm doing right now. And so, I'm so grateful for the heritage that my mother gave me, because I just, even today, I talk to a lot of women who are in a very difficult position, either because, they're single moms or because they are, in unfortunate situations in their with their partners, their spouses, where they don't really want to be there, but because of abuse or control or things like that, but they see no way out. And, so there might be some of you listening right now that maybe feel stuck in one of those situations. And I just want to encourage you because there's always a way out. There's always one step you can take. There is, you can find support, and it's never, never too late. So, and I think that is just so wonderful that, today we have so many opportunities to pursue, whether it's education or some type of training. So, yeah, so that was my story.
Yes, and I love that message that it is never too late. When did you actually go back to school? You said it wasn't early on.
No, I actually, it seems like I started college when, most people or, most young adults do. But then I got interested in ministry and, I was actually born in Norway. Born and grew up in Norway. And then, so I came to the United States and went to Bible school and kind of pursued that for a long time. And I'm still doing that. But I was actually in my 40s and 50s when I went back to school again and finally, gathered up all of my credits and finished it. And I have certainly not regretted that.
Yes, I love that
So
story.
it really is never too late. I know of, people that are, I thought, oh, certainly I was going to be the oldest one in my class, but I wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, never too late.
I love that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So when people get into this situation, sort of what's the cycle, or how does this happen that we get into this thought pattern or feeling like we're stuck and we can't get out? Maybe we didn't get that education. What kind of is going on there?
Yeah. Well, there are probably a lot of things that could be going on, but
Sure.
but I would like to just share a couple of things here in this program.
Perfect.
And the first thing is, when children are young, when they're even toddlers, there's such a thing as exploring. There is such a thing as opening and closing things and digging into drawers and, tasting things. And, so there's that need to learn and explore. And then when you get a little bit older, maybe like elementary age, then that child kind of on some level, they ask themselves the question, like, am I valuable in this world? Can I contribute? What can I find my place? Is there a need for me? How can I kind of find my place of being of contributing? And so if these questions and these initiatives are met with a lot of reprimands and a lot of no's, and that basically those kids are made to feel like they are an inconvenience, which unfortunately happens a lot. That can be one factor, that they just kind of, no matter what they do, it's like they always get in trouble, or they always get a no, or they're always in the way, or, so they get made to feel like, I can't do anything right. And so that kind of can map into a person, this helplessness or this passivity, that even if I take initiative, it's not going to work kind of feeling, that kind of sits very deeply in some people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there is another concept that I'd like to share today that I am very fond of. And that is called, in psychology, it's called a concept of internal or external locus of control. And that sounds very difficult, but it's not. So locus is simply means a place. So what it really means is that it's how a person views what are the factors that really determine the ultimate outcome of my life. Like, is it all externally, like out in my circumstances, or is it internally within me? So, for example, an externally focused person, or a person with an external locus of control, they will feel that it's just kind of, it's all going to be dependent upon the economy, who their boss is, the government, or, their parents, or, it's easy to find things to blame, for whatever has gone wrong.
Sure.
Or that things just have to line up, just, the planets have to line up,
the stars
just
have to be in retrograde. I don't even know the words. That type of
right,
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's kind of this sense of, if it's supposed to happen, it will happen. And so there's a lack of initiative. There's a lack of the sense that, my effort is going to really make a difference. Mm-hmm. And so you can see how that goes together kind of with a childhood where you haven't been encouraged, or a childhood where you really felt very powerless, whether that was because of, whatever circumstances of a mom who was depressed and, was never available, or if there was some more deliberate abuse or neglect, but, when you grow up with that sense of it doesn't matter what I do, kind of thing, then it's very easy to become or to have that external locus of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, the internal locus of control is very different. That is where you really believe and you have the sense of, if I work hard, if I practice, if I learn, if I give a lot of effort here, if I am diligent, I have a much better chance of succeeding. And that I actually control the ultimate outcome of my life. That, and like we talked about earlier, Camille, that it's not just what I can't do, but it's looking at what I can do. And I like you said that very well. And it's so true that, of course we can't control the weather. We can't control the economy. We can't control a lot of things, but there are so many things we can control. Yes. And there's always a way out. I am of the, that is what I tell everyone. There's always a way out. I always believe that with wisdom, with knowledge, with a mentor in your life, with a counselor in your life, with a pastor, with a support group, with people, with a group like you have, Camille, that with the support and the instruction and being willing to learn and grow, that you can rise to the next level. You can change the outcome of your life. And that brings me so much hope.
Yes, that's such a wonderful thought. It is possible. And
yes.
Instead of spending so much time and energy focusing on all the things you can't do or can't control, figure out, okay, what's one thing I can do today?
Yes, exactly.
One phone call I could make, or one person I could talk to, or, one something that you could do. Yeah.
Yes. And, that is why, we love movies like The Blind Side, or, movies of where all the odds were against this person. And they just, and they tried and they failed and they failed and they failed. And then they started learning and they started having a small little victory and then another little victory. And before you know it, they were on the roll, and, and how they succeeded in life. And I think I love movies like that.
I do too. And the music starts to pick up while you're watching them learn everything. I really like that point though, of the small victories.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes me think about how so many of us don't hit the goals that we set because we made this thing that was completely outrageous and had zero plan in place of how we were going to actually make it happen. Versus if we can come up with one thing that we can do that's maybe a small stretch and then we hit it, okay, now we've got a victory under our belt and we can feel a little more confident going to the next one.
That is so good. That is so good. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, don't despise the small beginnings. And, I always, I love that because it's by sowing, it's by sowing one seed and the next seed and the next seed. I heard this story about, that's just coming to me right now. I heard this story about this woman, and I think it was in Arkansas or something, that has this huge property, and a part of the property, it's like tulips as far as your eye can see, basically. It's just, this ocean of beauty. And so it's kind of like a little, what do you call it? Those, anyway, those points of interest, these, Yeah.
Oh, the little
And
landmark or something where you go
yes,
visit. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so she was asked, how in the world did you do all this? And she said it was just, a few hundred bulbs every year, little by little.
Yes.
And that is just so awesome to me,
Yes.
you know?
I love that point. And
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. So many times people are looking for that quick fix or the big leap or the whatever it is. And even when you see somebody who's successful, we have the tendency to go, "Oh man, that was, really fast." But we
Yeah.
didn't see them planting bulbs every year for 20 years.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Exactly. And something else coming to me right now, that there's a book by Henry Cloud and John Townsend that's called Nine. Those are those two guys are authored a very famous book. It's called Boundaries, and um, and it's called Nine Things You Simply Must Do to Succeed in Love and Life. And that is such a great book. And so in that book, there's one chapter about, the small beginnings. And so he talks about how he was going to start on his dissertation, his doctorate dissertation. And he felt so overwhelmed, with all the research and all the writing and all the phone calls and all the stuff he had to do. And so somebody gave him this aquarium with an ant farm in it. And in the beginning, it was just a bunch of ants and sand. That was it. Just a pile of sand and ants.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, and then he started noticing how the ants just started to pick up one grain of sand and moving it. Yeah, you get the thing, right?
Yes.
And so he was gone for a couple of weeks, and when he came back, he was just amazed at all the tunnels that he started to see. And then finally it grew to this amazing ant city, with all these intricate tunnels and things. And so anyway, so it was, for him then, it was just to make that first phone call. It was to get that first book, to make that first research, and and that's how we do it.
Right. Just keep going.
Yeah. And in the process, we develop character. And I love that.
That's a great point. Yes.
Yes, we develop endurance. We develop patience and skills that we need for the finished product.
Right. If you just jumped straight to the success level, you wouldn't have any of those things developed. You probably wouldn't stay at the success level for very long.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. So we don't have the character to sustain it. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, yeah. And so, so what are some steps that a person can take real practically? And, something that I think is one of the, if you don't know Camille yet and you haven't sat down with her, I would really recommend that you do that, because she has a lot of knowledge and wealth of wisdom. And, she has some amazing things to share with you that can help you to prepare for the future. And the second thing I would mention is to find a supportive group, whether it's a couple of friends and it's more informally, or whether it's more of a group that actually meets around finances or how to, whatever, or maybe in a certain field, but just get some support around you. And then begin to learn some basics about finances, about how to prepare for the future. And definitely, if you are young and you're listening now, man, get in gear, because you you have time on your hand. So that's awesome. And I would say to you women, please take responsibility for your finances. Don't just, many of you maybe have a very good situation, with a husband or partner, and but take responsibility for your life. So I want to put that out there again, and just, always have healthy boundaries with money. We can be givers, but we don't want to be manipulated into pouring into people who are not responsible, or projects where leaders are not responsible. And so, those are just a couple of things. I would also say, keep on learning. Maybe some of you already have a college education, or you have your degree, or you have your training, but just keep on learning. Be a learner for the rest of your life.
Yes, I love
Read,
it. And what a
and listen and study. Yeah.
What a great piece of business and personal finance advice of be careful where you are pouring your resources. So many times I see people wanting to put money into something that doesn't go anywhere. That's a great thought. I hadn't considered looking at it that way before, as being, really considerate as to where you are placing your resources. So
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this has been
Good.
wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was my privilege.
You can find Cecilia on Psychology Today. You can also contact her through her website, pathofhopecounseling.com. And we'll post a link to the book that she mentioned on our website, moneyheartshow.com. Thank you to all of our listeners and viewers. I'm your host, Camille Diaz. This show is sponsored by Serenity Financial, a Five Rings financial agency specializing in financial education, living benefits, and guaranteed lifetime income. Today's money mantra is one that Cecilia helped me come up with, and it is, I choose to rise to my next level.